Hello, I'm Jeannie Long, Executive Director, Chicago Collections Consortium, and also a member of the Chicago Research Summit Advisory Committee. I wanted to welcome you today to today's program, Modeling History, Oral History, and the Chicago Anti-Apartheid. I'm excited that you're joining us today, and we have a few little housekeeping rules to share. I want to remind everyone that the program will be recorded, and we will be having this recording made available later on after the close of the program. We'll be having the opportunity to ask questions at the end of the program. So please reserve your questions and share them via the chat feature. Let's begin by having the panelists introduce themselves.
I'll start.
Great, Erin, thanks.
My name's Erin McCarthy, and I'm the interim chair of the communication department at Columbia College Chicago. I'm also an oral historian, and that is really my role on this grant as the oral historian and providing the training.
Hello, I'm Heidi Marshall. I'm head of College Archives and Special Collections at Columbia College Chicago. And we worked very closely with Erin McCarthy and her students in various and sundry classes, more than just the oral history classes, but we've worked together quite often, and we look forward to passing along some of our lessons learned.
Hi, my name's Adiam, and I'm a third-year English major at Columbia College, and I'm one of the interns going through the interviews.
Hi, I'm Bree Ramirez, and I'm a second year, and I'm also an intern going through the oral histories on this project.
Good morning. My name's Peter Fitzpatrick. I'm the Special Advisor to Community Engagement for the Provost Office at Columbia College, and I'm the administrative support on this project.
So we're going to hear first from Peter, who's going to tell us more about the grant, and then Heidi, who will talk about the collection that the students are working with. And I will briefly describe the oral history process that the archives and the oral histories honors course has really developed over the years of working together. And then we'll hear from our two graduate students. So Peter, do you want to start us off?
Okay, so hopefully, can you see that? See my screen? Okay, great. So we're part of the Council of Independent Colleges at Columbia College. We're a member institute. And so we were able to apply for this grant, which is the grant for humanities research for the public good. And the idea of the grant is to demonstrate the power of humanities and to offer new insights. So using archives and other collections on campuses to offer new insights on current issues and to engage both students and members of the public through the grant and the project process. And also the third component is the members of the faculty and staff community at Columbia College Chicago. The grant is a $10,000 award, and in 2020 there was 24 institutions that were successful in the grant application. It's a pretty competitive grant application process. Columbia College, we're happy to report one of two institutions in the Midwest that were awarded, and we're the only institution in Illinois. The grant was delayed for a year because of COVID. So we're just starting off now. So we're in the 2021-2022 academic year period. Another part of the grant is that at least one community-based organization is going to be partnering with Columbia College or the institution that's been awarded the grant. Our partner is the Chicago Cultural Alliance group, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Each team is made up, as you've just heard from the introduction, a full-time faculty member in the humanities, which is Erin, the student researchers, which is Bree and Adaman, and then we also have the collection specialist, Heidi, and then my role as the administrator. So there's also a requirement that the president of the institution supports the actual project. So there's a part of the application process is getting a letter from the top administration of the institution. You can see, like on the screen here, there's humanities research of the public good was designed to collect independent colleges and universities with cultural and civic organizations. Also, they want to promote sort of the better use and elevation of campus collections, not only to the institution community, but also to the wider community, so the external community. They also want to enhance the research, collaboration, and communication skills of students. So it's very much to promote student development. And particularly this grant is actually an undergraduate research grant. So it's very much focused on undergraduate study. And then it's also, to encourage the humanities faculty members and collection specialists to apply their expertise to issues of public policy and community concern. So it's really plugging in the archive into the community around us and also internally. And then just here, it's a very broad sort of possibilities of what we do with the research project and also the outputs. But their key thing is the student research might include a course-based project, an independent study, or a stipend. So you can plug this grant into a course if you want, or as what we've done is actually identified 2 excellent interns to work with the archive for a 12-month period. And then you will also see the other groups here that are part of this grant. And also there's opportunity throughout the period of the project and research grant period to actually connect with your other participants, institutions through sort of curated moments through the year by the College of Independent Colleges, the Council of Independent Colleges, sorry. So I'm going to send it back over to Erin now.
Thanks, Peter. And you were under time, so that was great. We're on mark so far. Heidi, do you want to take it from here and talk about the collection that the students are working with?
Sure. Give me 1 second. Have to set it to autoplay for a quick second here. There we go. People don't throw away things important to them, especially things that reflect their commitment to their own beliefs and their ability to enact social change. They store items under beds or in closets or basements or attics until the time comes to decide exactly what to do with them. Sometimes there's an inner awareness that materials are more important collectively held than stored away privately. It is this latter situation that brought together the materials in the Chicago Anti-Apartheid Movement collection. They had lived a full life in private homes and then came together to form one collection at Columbia College, Chicago. It is more than fitting that these different organizational records held by individuals have been collected into one because it reflects how the local anti-apartheid activist groups worked. While people may have belonged to separate local organizations, these organizations work together to strengthen their voice, to rally, to educate, all to bring about change. Dr. Lisa Brock, former chair of the College Department of Humanities, History, and Social Sciences, was instrumental in urging her fellow local activists to gather their materials and bring them to campus one March evening in 2007. And people came, carrying posters, papers, and audiovisual materials. More than 24 donors formed this one collection. Other donations followed. There are 3 additional activists who gave us large collections well after this March event. One additional book collection remains to be organized, thus making a 4th related collection. And this collection continues to grow as activists locate and donate more materials. These collections remain the most frequently used in the campus archival units. They illustrate how a protest was conducted in the days when organizers mailed out newsletters to keep people informed on the latest developments, and the quickest way to reach people was to work your way through a handwritten list of home phone numbers and just simply call people. Simply put, it illustrates how a protest was conducted pre-internet. It showcases the power of local protest to bring change to a global issue, and it is used as basis for student education. Since 2007, numerous Columbia students' first encounter with primary materials originate from these collections. Its posters that you're seeing, some of which you're seeing here, have been used as springboard for the creation of protest posters reflective of current times. To create their own work, students need to study powerful images and impactful words for greatest impact. Melissa Potter actually will be speaking about some of her work with her students in the 2 p.m. session today. Humanities and history students explore collection contents and of personal interest in order to compose class final papers. All have been taught how to pull information from primary sources and materials. Students learn how to extrapolate this important information from collection items with worksheets archive staff have created, focusing on topics such as identifying bias in archival collections, how to read posters or images, and document study and analysis in order to hone skills to perform intense study of archival materials. The local anti-apartheid activists have been interviewed by students, and this set of oral history interviews currently serve as the foundation for the Council of Independent Colleges grant. Erin McCarthy led the 3 semesters of students to develop scripts, conduct interviews, and transcribe the sessions, and all are available online. Historian Gerald Horn cited these student-conducted oral histories in his recent book, White Supremacy Confronted, U.S. Imperialism and Anti-Communism versus the Liberation of Southern Africa from Rhodes to Mandela. And he quoted more than half the oral histories in its pages. Archive staff created a listening to oral histories worksheet as well for our student interns to learn how to conduct close listening to pull quality information from these audio files. It's not just Columbia students who use this collection, as we have had many researchers visit campus to view them from all over the United States, the state, and the world. High school students have consulted the collection for History Day projects. Master's students and doctoral students have written their works based on its content. Also, people from around the world view its online material. While we currently have fewer than 400 online items, these have been downloaded more than 100,000 times by people in the United States, Canada, South Africa, Nigeria, Mozambique, Ghana, Angola, France, and the UK. In fact, 101 countries have accessed material from this online collection. Columbia is committed to continuing collecting materials and making them accessible online to document the local response to the global movement against apartheid, and specifically Chicago's role in this movement. More importantly, making them available online allows people in South Africa to access the material for study and education from a period of their history not documented in their own country's records, as the apartheid government destroyed most records before they were voted out of office when Nelson Mandela was elected president. We also work closely with the Michigan State University African Activist Archive Project, and this summer digitized material from our collections for online addition to both our digital repository and to the African Activist Archive Project site for greater access and discoverability. A set of locally produced newsletters published in the 1970s are one new addition. You'll see it here, the African Agenda, originally authored anonymously, but now its authors' names are known. Lisa Brock, Otis Cunningham, and Prexy Nesbitt, whose oral histories and papers are held within the main anti-apartheid collection or as a separate related collection. We're adding records from the Chicago Trans-Africa and the Chicago Free South Africa chapters online soon as well, work that Cheryl Johnson Odom did and whose collection we also hold. Cheryl Johnson Odom served as dean at Columbia College, Chicago, and recently retired as provost from the Dominican University. There is continued and heightened interest in these collections and learning about this period in South African history and in exploring Chicago's protest movements in the global struggle for South African liberation. Thank you.
Thanks, Heidi. I have to turn off my timer. You are right on the button. Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk a bit about our approach to oral history at Columbia College. And did I get the right thing? No. I'm sorry. Choose screen. Okay, so are you seeing my PowerPoint just to make sure? Yes, okay, thanks, Adium. I want to go through just what we do at Columbia College in conjunction between the partnership between the archives and what has been the honors program, the course and the honors program here at the school. I'd like to open with just mentioning the significance of this grant, that this grant from the Council of Independent Colleges gives us the first opportunity to test our approach to oral history at Columbia College Chicago. And that approach includes partnering with community organizations. We also will, for the first time, be able to have the time and the resources and the funding to conduct content analysis of some of the oral histories that the students have done over the years with this grant, as you've learned, specific to the Chicago Anti-Apartheid Movement collection. And then it also provides support for production training. And so these are really, this is the first opportunity that we've had to do this. You know, I think that everyone here listening to Heidi talk about the collection, there's no way to come away from that not impressed. And the world is using the collection, and it's great that now we also have the opportunity to really dive in and use the collection, and then also bring it beyond the college archives walls. Our approach is kind of a triad model. As I've said, it's the honors oral history students, the college archives and special collections, and then the community partner. And this community partner changes. For the most part, we usually don't do one-offs just for a semester. There's some exceptions to that, but we have partnered with the Veterans Art Museum. We've partnered with the Hellenic Museum here in Chicago. We have initiated a few other projects with activists, but this project with the Chicago Anti-Apartheid Movement collection lasted 3 semesters. A requirement of conducting oral history projects here at Columbia College, we deliver, the students and the community partner deliver an interview portfolio for each interview to the archives. And these interview portfolios contain a biographical data form, the recording, which is the primary document, a verbatim transcription. We do our best going forward to provide images, and we're really trying to include a historical image of the interviewee, of the narrator, and a current image. That is, we have not completed that aspect of the project, but that's our goal. We also include in that portfolio consent forms from both the narrator and from the interviewer, the student interviewer. And another thing we are starting to add for each interview, key terms, a brief introduction, and a biographical statement. The key project components in the interviewing process that we like to point to and talk about are interviews, regardless of the topic of the focus of the interview. And in this project, obviously the interviews, the focus was the activism of the narrators in the anti-apartheid movement. But we do take a life history approach that we do ask in the narrative section of the interview, starting with their earliest years in education and bringing it up to the project focus rather quickly. But we really believe in that contextual approach to interviewing. By its nature, because it is a college, undergraduates partnering with community organizations, our interview process is intergenerational, which is extremely beneficial, I think, to both parties, but certainly to the students, to interview individuals from an older generation. And I think one of the most interesting aspects of it, that they are at one point in the interview interviewing a peer, because they're interviewing their narrator about their life as a youth in their late teens, early 20s. So that is something that students comment on quite frequently. The core questions, which I will come back to in a minute, really sets our approach apart. And also that we provide a verbatim transcription. That's getting a little easier these days because of some of the audio transcription applications. But Heidi and I can talk at length about how arduous this was in the early days, in the dark ages for the students. But it is a way to intimately know the material. And also still to this day, it is the hard copy that is used most frequently. The listening to the recording is often kind of the backup or done secondarily to reviewing the transcription. Also very important that not many collections can boast about. Our collections are digitally archived by the archives and accessible. And Heidi talked a bit about how impactful, and what the data is telling us already about making this available digitally. And then also we don't do interviews without consent forms, that we want to make sure that these are accessible to the scholars, the public, and other interested parties. What sets our approach to oral history projects apart, we believe, are the core questions. And the core questions are specific questions that are asked in every interview. We require input from our community partners on what those core questions can be. they are, they're not unlimited. It doesn't, they're not exhaustive. They don't cover the entire interview, but we do want to know what the most important things that the project, the community partners are interested in learning. The student review is required. So there's a lot of training about core questions, what they are and what they require. Consensus is required with the community partner. And what these do, and our intent for including these, is that they allow content analysis across the interviews. As I said before, we have not actually applied this, and this grant allows us to do this for the first time. And for the content analysis with these core questions, they help identify themes, consistencies, inconsistencies, and we believe, at least to date, that this is unique to the Columbia College partner projects, these core questions. Briefly, these are the narrative core questions that the community partners, the activists, and the students, with guidance from myself and from Heidi, used for the anti-apartheid movement interviews. And these are the core questions that our student interns will be looking at specifically in their content analysis. And then I just want to share the reflection core questions too. At the end of the interviews, these were the 3 required questions that the student interviewers had to include. And now I would like to hear, we are all going to hear from our student interns. Bree is going to speak first, and then Adiam. So welcome, Bree and Adiam.
Hi, yes. So I joined on this project. Adiam and I joined on this project at the same time. We went through like the interview process, and we both spoke with Heidi and Aaron on like why we would want to be involved in this project and why it would seem important to us. And at least for me, I'm sure Adiam will speak on it when it's her turn. But at least for me, I have a deep love of history. And like Heidi said, my parents don't like to throw things away. So I have a lot of information on my own family's history. And that is because of all of the archival documents and information that has been kept. And I think that is a really big part on why I have such an interest in this project. When I did the content analysis for the first oral history that we listened to, which was Danny Davis, it was a great interview. It was a great opportunity. At first, it was kind of hard only because I had never done a formal analysis on an oral history. And I think that it's definitely gotten easier, but it was just, how do you whittle down from so much information? Like, it's one of those where my content analysis could be multiple pages long, but for the process of what it is we're doing, that's not efficient. And even now we just read Prexy Nesbitt's oral history, and we read and listened to it. And that is an unbelievable amount of information, and all of it has substance. And I think that's why I absolutely love this project. Is it's not just sitting down and listening to other people talk. It's everything has genuine substance about a genuine issue in these people's lives. And we just get to sit back and listen to what it is they went through and learn from what it is they went through. And I find that to be both really inspiring and incredibly powerful. So, yeah.
Thanks, Bree. And Adiam, do you want to share your?
Yes. So I think, well, similar to Bree, I have a really deep interest in history, and specifically like how history shows up in personal storytelling and in narratives And so what interested me the most when I was learning about this project was one, just the thought of like listening to how these activists would be telling their stories, and then also just being a part of the process of sharing and honoring and celebrating those histories. And so far, yeah, we've listened to Danny Davis and Prexy Nesbitt so far. And I think what I've learned in those experiences is in an oral history interview, you're listening very carefully and questioning everything, and not just like what's being discussed, but also what's not being said and how things are being said. So we're asking questions like what's the conversational tone, or like what words are being, what phrases are being like repeated or emphasized, and like what might that mean? So you're really being asked to read between the lines. And I think my listening is slowly like starting to change, and it's getting easier to pick up on certain things as a result of that. So that's very cool. And one of the things, I think, yeah, listening to the interviews, that experience, it's been interesting to pick up on similarities so far. So across the two interviews, something that's come up for me in my observations is a lot of personal sacrifice on part of the activists, and dedicating so much of their time and sacrificing their personal lives, and for the sake of there being the possibility of liberation. And it's not like people go into activism because it pays well. So it really, after listening to these interviews, it leaves me feeling like a very deep respect and wanting to know more about them. And as we're moving forward, it's just making me feel more and more excited to like get to a point where we're writing scripts and for the podcasts. Because after doing listening on our own part for me and Bree, but I'll speak for myself, they're activists, but they're also just ordinary people who happen to live through a particular moment in time. And they were called, and they behaved so beautifully under very difficult circumstances. And so for more people to have access to those stories, to learn more about the past, and really in turn learn more about ourselves and about what it means to be a human, is just something that's really exciting. So it's really a deep, deep honor to be on this project and doing this work. But yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Adiam, and to Bree. And I bet everybody here is, we also feel very privileged to have you on this grant and to be working with you. And I have to say that for the Research Summit and the grant, that to feature you and your work and your thoughts and your experiences, that has also been a great opportunity. So I'm grateful for that as well. So Peter's going to wrap up the panel, talking a bit about the programming, which is an essential part of the grant. And then we'll look forward to answering any questions you all might have for us.
So I just wanted to bring people's attention to our platform that we're running, we're recording the project on. So as part of the grant, as I mentioned before, it is really about connecting the archives, the work that the team is doing, and that collection to the community. So one way that we decided to facilitate that was to create this platform that is interactive. And so, like, as we go through the project, we will be putting up more updates onto this site. The site URL I'll put in the chat in a minute, but you can see up here, it's everyvoicechicago.com, CIC archives project. I've got every bells and whistles going at the moment, but you can come to this page and subscribe. And so we can send you updates as they happen. You can follow you can get a brief description of, again, our aims here. You also have a link to that CIC information grant page that I showed at the beginning of the this presentation. We have a link to our Cultural Alliance, Chicago Cultural Alliance, our community partner. You also see that we have a project schedule and events timeline here, so you can actually come through and keep track of what we're doing. We have another presentation happening as part of the Collective Impact series that we run at Columbia College, which will be on October 26th. So you can come here and sign up for that as well. And again, this tracks the process of the project that we, the schedule that we presented to CIC originally. You'll also see down here in this section that we have podcast recordings. So part of the process is that we're also partnering with our on-campus radio station, which is WCRX. And Matt Cunningham, one of the faculty that is attached to that unit, will train Bree and Adaman into podcast recording techniques, which is another component of this grant. To make it interactive, we've also got a share of stories of anti-apartheid here, where people and yourselves can actually sign up and share stories and your experiences with this moment in history, and so on. And we've also got a question section there. So if you have any questions about getting access to the archives or anything about the project, you can happily sort of ask a question here as well, and we'll get back to you. So it's very interactive. One other key part is we've been only working on this project since August, but we've already getting traction with sort of people becoming aware of the archive. So we were able to host the South African ambassador on campus a couple of weeks ago, and also, we're also making the institution that we work for aware of the collection. So we were able to invite our provost to the collection, and so we're sort of rolling along pretty well here. So you can also see here we've got our Chicago Cultural Alliance partners here, and part of the project we'll be working with this community partner to work on delivering for their community some workshops on the oral history model. So that will happen in 2022, at the beginning of 2022, and then we have our WCRX radio station, where the podcasts will actually be also broadcast from. So lots of activities there. But I do, encourage you to sign up, to just stay in touch with us, and to follow along and see how we go. So if anyone has any questions for our panel members, you can put those in the chat, or you can unmute yourself.
This is Jeannie Long from Chicago Collections Consortium with a comment slash question too. I mean, I would be shameless without saying how happy we are the free and accessible access to these records, and the fact that they're on Explore Chicago Collections, and what Columbia College has done on this topic, and especially as all of you had noted on the global front, a topic, but also, you know, I applaud on the faculty front the efforts of the engagement of the students and the seriousness as shown of their participation. So my question, you know, looking to the future too, and continuing this, some ideas and stored as to how this might cross over into, you know, other areas and department of work at Columbia.
I can start that. It's interesting. Heidi and I have just been talking with a faculty member in the communication department, and they are interested in having a handful of their students having a capstone experience, very similar to what Adiam and Bree are doing for the grant. So we are already in talks in that way of extending it and making sure that other students are afforded the same experience, and to make sure that is, you know, that goal and that purpose of this work is carried out, because it is very important to Heidi and myself that really this is a student, and Peter too, but that it's student-centered, and that our Columbia undergrads, and the belief that undergraduates are capable of research, are capable of doing this kind of heavy lifting, but are also given the appropriate resources and training, and have that too. So Jeannie, thank you for that question. But we're just in consultation with the Anti-Freedom, you know, within the last week. So
It's great, and the cross-disciplinary of Columbia College too, that you know, promote that interplay. So no, bravo.
thanks.
Yeah, and I think like from the perspective of an institution, this particular grant gives us, I see it as a seed grant. So it allows us to sort of test the model, but also again build that awareness within the college and also Chicago, the wider community of Chicago, about the collection. But there's that sort of, you know, it allows us to test something out with a budget, and also work on the logistics, so that, you know, we can continue the work after the grant, so that, you know, we have all the data that we need to move forward on promoting other parts of our extensive collection.
Just a word to say that this is probably one of the larger pieces of oral histories that we have, but we have several others on various topics that beg exploration, including teaching artists, including civil rights, and that's my cat. I apologize if you can hear it. And a few others that we would be able to work with as students, based on Chicago 1968 project as well. That's religious activism. So we look forward to being able to apply this model to across all the other collections we do hold as well.
A question that's come up in the chat has been, could you speak a bit about the process of recruiting and choosing students for involvement? And they said this is a fabulous project, and thank you for sharing.
So thanks for that question, because I think I felt a little remiss that we didn't comment on that. And what I would like to add is how competitive the interviewing process and that was. We had 10 very strong candidates, and through consensus between myself and Heidi, Bree and Adiam were clearly the top candidates. But it speaks to, I think, undergraduate potential and recognizing that, and also the Columbia students and their interests. And you heard from Adi and Bree both about, you know, what drew them to this project. So I'm going to turn it over to Peter because he posted the descriptions. Heidi wrote the job descriptions, and it is important to know these interns are paid, and they're paid competitively with the aspirational minimum wage. They're getting $20 an hour, correct, Peter? Hi, Heidi, is that correct? That's what was our, so, you know, we recognize the level of work we're requiring and we want to reward that. And they certainly are of the caliber that that certainly deserves that. And hopefully they feel that they leave this internship with a skill set and also, you know, the recognition of the importance of it through the payment. So Peter, if you could talk about Handshake maybe.
Oh, yeah, sure. So we use the tool in partnership with the Careers Center at Columbia College. We have a really great Careers Center and they use a platform called Handshake. So it's a recruiting platform where we put the call out for the different positions and then the students apply. So it's an internal call, but again, like we had 10 applicants for the call. And then also, I didn't mention before that we have another intern that's attached to the community engagement component of the project, who's helping with the PR and the social media aspects as we get rolling. So it allows us, you know, the grant has allowed us really to actually bring on 3 interns, which is fantastic. But, you know, the other component is, I guess the other aspect of this whole idea of this grant is that it allows us to bring different assets from across the institution together. So we did a lot of work with the Career Center to get our call out and so on, and work through that system to get to promote it and so on. So so that's a very key aspect, is that it is about bringing many different parts of the institution together, so we can work on a project and also learn from each other. So it's a very valuable experience. Even very early on, it's been very valuable. So do we have any more questions?
Well, it's Jeannie Long again, and I can speak to the fact that we were so pleased to have this opportunity for this conversation and discussion, and especially with the idea of, again, being able to share this information, being able to share the summit today freely and open access. If we, you know, can speak to all the changes of the pandemic, being able to meet virtually has made things easier for all of us. So I really appreciate the time that all of you have dedicated to this and taking the time today to present to us. I want to remind attendees, we do have a social hour for you to gather. Again, alas, virtually is not the same as being in person, but you know, look at the schedule and feel free to join us with that. But Thanks, Peter, for sharing some links as well in the chat for everyone. Yes, with that, we can conclude. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Jeannie, and thanks for hosting our session. Appreciate it.
We're a little green around the edges as this was the first one, but no, thank you all. And no, we're excited just to be together and to have that positive response for the summit. So we'll look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.